What happens when you truly let go? The Buddha's answer. When you let go, the mind finds stillness. There's a quiet tension that lives under the surface, beneath thoughts, beneath plans, even beneath a smile. It's the effort to keep everything together, how we look, what others expect from us, our sense of control over life. But that very effort may be what keeps us restless. In the Buddha's path, freedom doesn't come from adding more. It begins when the clinging softens. Not by turning away from life, but by no longer gripping it so tightly. When the holding loosens, even slightly, something inside begins to shift. In the mind, in the heart, and in how we live each day. Let's start with the mind, something we live with every day. Most of the time, the mind is busy. It jumps from one thought to another. It replays what went wrong yesterday, and it worries about tomorrow. It rarely just rests. Living in this mental noise is tiring, even if we don't realize it. But when you begin to let go, even just a little, something shifts. You're not forcing it. It's like a busy market that slowly quiets down at the end of the day. The noise fades. The space that was always there finally becomes clear. The mind settles. It's not empty. It's quietly alive. In Buddhism, this calm is called samatha, a peaceful mind that's no longer pulled in every direction. From this calm, clarity naturally begins to appear. And this shift isn't just a feeling. Science backs it up. When people practice mindfulness and let go of attachment, parts of the brain linked to fear and stress calm down. Other areas, like those connected to focus and emotional balance, become more active. It's not the outside world that changes. It's your nervous system that starts to relax. You're no longer stuck in survival mode. Your mind finds its own rhythm. And from that, a deeper balance begins to grow. One that doesn't depend on things always going your way. As the mind quiets down, your emotions start to feel different too. You still feel things. Sadness, joy, anger. But now there's space. Instead of being swept away by each feeling, you notice it rise and pass. You don't confuse one wave for the whole ocean. You're not just the feeling. You're the one observing it. And that makes a big difference. The Buddha taught that all feelings are impermanent. When we see this clearly, we stop holding on to the pleasant ones and stop fighting the painful ones. We let them come and go. This isn't numbness. It's presence. You still feel deeply, but you're not overwhelmed. Emotions don't leave the same scars because you're not fighting them or clinging to them. You're just letting them pass, like clouds moving across the sky. And something else happens when you let go. You become less reactive. A rude comment or a delay used to trigger you right away. But now, you notice a pause. You breathe. You observe. And then, if needed, you respond. Not from habit, but with awareness. That pause is powerful. It means your inner world isn't being hijacked by every little thing. You're no longer a puppet pulled by invisible strings. But this stillness doesn't come from shutting down or pushing things away. It comes from softening the grip, the constant pressure to control, to fix, to judge. And when that grip loosens, even just a little, something beautiful starts to show itself. The natural peace of the mind. Not a peace you chase, but a peace that's always been there, just waiting under all the noise. When you let go, the self becomes lighter. As your mind becomes quieter, something deeper also starts to shift. Your sense of who you are. It's not loud or dramatic. But slowly, the idea of a solid, fixed me starts to feel a little softer. You don't feel like someone else. You just begin to see that who you are has never been as permanent as you once thought. Think about yourself at age 10, then 20, and now. Your thoughts changed. Your interests changed. The way you saw the world changed. But even with all that change, we often believe there's a solid me behind it all, something that never moves. But what if that me is more like a river than a rock, always flowing, always changing? When you let go, this hard idea of who you are starts to dissolve. You don't lose your personality or your memories, but you stop clinging to them as if they define you completely. And when you stop holding on so tightly, you stop being afraid of change. Losing a job, ending a relationship, growing older. These things don't feel like personal failures anymore. They're just part of life moving forward. In Buddhism, this insight is called anatta, the truth that the self is not fixed. It doesn't mean you disappear. It means you were never just one thing to begin with. And when you see that, it brings space. Space to breathe. Space to live without always defending or proving who you are. Letting go in this way doesn't erase you. It opens you. And when your focus on me starts to fade, something else happens. You begin to really notice other people. Not as background characters in your story, not as people who need to like you or agree with you, but as full human beings with their own hopes, fears, and joys. Your ability to care grows deeper. Not because you're trying to be more kind, but because there's more space inside you. More space to listen. More space to care. You don't need anything in return. Compassion starts to come naturally, not as something you have to practice, but as something that simply flows out of you. This kind of compassion doesn't feel like a performance. It's not about being good. It's just honest. You find yourself judging less, listening more, and feeling more connected, even with people you don't know well. As the grip of ego softens, the heart opens on its own. And just to be clear, letting go doesn't leave you empty. It's not that nothing is left. What falls away is the noise, the need to always be someone, the pressure to hold everything together. And what's left behind isn't something new. It's something that was always there. A quiet awareness that doesn't need to prove anything. Modern psychology sees this too. In acceptance and commitment therapy, there's an idea. Don't fight your thoughts and feelings. Let them be there, but don't let them control your life. That shift, from control to acceptance, helps you act based on what really matters to you, not just fear or habit. It's very close to what the Buddha taught. The more you cling, the more suffering you create. But when you make space, without judgment, your thoughts and emotions lose their grip. Letting go doesn't mean giving up on life. It means you're no longer trapped by the need to constantly manage who you are. Life starts to flow more easily, and you move with it. Not as someone trying to stay in control, but as someone learning how to be at ease with change. When you let go, your actions become freer. When the mind gets quieter and the sense of self becomes softer, something else begins to shift. The way you act in the world. You still care. You still show up. You still make plans and take action. But now, your actions feel lighter. You're not acting out of fear or pressure. You're not constantly trying to prove something. You act with clarity, with presence. You still go to work. You still help others. You still set goals. But you're no longer chasing results with tension. You're no longer trying to control everything. You do what needs to be done. And then, you let it go. This doesn't make you lazy. It makes you free. The Buddha taught about this kind of action, doing your part fully, but without clinging to the outcome. When you act like this, your actions carry a different energy. There's effort, but not stress. There's care, but not fear. Things feel lighter, even when the work is hard. And when you're not so focused on yourself, your image, your success, your story, something deeper starts to guide you. A purpose that isn't about ego. You begin to care more about others, not because you should, but because it feels natural. Helping a neighbor, supporting a cause, or creating something meaningful stops being a performance. It just feels right. That kind of purpose brings a deeper kind of happiness, not from rewards or praise, but from quiet alignment. You're doing what matters, from a place that's calm and grounded. Letting go also makes you stronger in a different way. You stop bracing against life. You stop trying to control every twist and turn. So when things don't go your way, you don't fall apart. You adjust. You bend, but you don't break. Like a tree swaying in the wind, rooted but flexible. This strength doesn't come from pretending that everything is fine. It comes from not being shaken by every storm. In the Nibbāna, the Buddha said that an awakened mind is unshaken by worldly conditions, free from sorrow, free from stains, and secure. That doesn't mean life is easy. It means you can face difficulty without losing your balance. And with this inner steadiness, your decisions become clearer. You're not acting out of fear or ego or the need to protect some image of yourself. You respond to what's in front of you, directly and honestly. You act with wisdom and compassion, not just for others, but for yourself too. You're no longer stuck in the question of what you should do. You're simply doing what makes sense in this moment, with as much care as you can. Letting go doesn't make life perfect. It won't protect you from pain or loss, but it gives you something better. The freedom to act without being ruled by fear or craving. You show up fully, not because you're chasing something, but because you're no longer held back by what doesn't matter. When you let go completely, peace reveals itself. Letting go isn't just a nice idea or a one-time choice. It's a path, something you walk little by little every day. But where does that path lead? What happens when the clinging truly stops? Beyond a quiet mind, beyond a softer sense of self, something deeper begins to appear, a peace that doesn't come and go. It's not the kind of peace that depends on how things turn out. It's the peace that's already there when the grasping ends. In Buddhism, this is called Nibbāna, It's not a faraway place or a strange state of nothingness. It's a real experience. A mind that's not caught up in wanting, resisting, or holding on. As the Buddha said, the unbinding of the mind through non-clinging is the highest peace. This peace doesn't need to be created. It's what's left when the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion go out. It's not that your mind becomes blank. It's that it no longer needs to chase or fight or prove anything. It's finally at rest. When the mind reaches this depth, it stops dividing the world so sharply into me versus them, right versus wrong, good versus bad. It's like hearing rain falling outside. You don't need it to stop. You don't need to call it bad. You just experience it. You're present, awake, balanced. The Buddha said, just as the ocean has one taste, the taste of salt, this Dhamma has one taste, the taste of liberation. Science can't fully explain this state, but it points in the same direction. Brain scans of experienced meditators show less activity in areas tied to ego and overthinking. The brain becomes calmer, more stable, less reactive. This doesn't capture everything the Buddha meant by Nibbāna, but it shows us a hint of what deep letting go can do, not just to our thoughts, but to how we experience life. Of course, this path isn't easy. Letting go doesn't happen all at once. It's a daily practice. Some days you'll feel open and clear. Other days, old habits will pull you back. That's okay. Every time you notice you're clinging and soften, even just a little, you're moving forward. Like building a muscle, you're training the mind to be free, not by avoiding pain, but by no longer resisting it. If you want to try this, take the next 24 hours as a simple practice. When a strong feeling shows up, anger, craving, fear, pause. Don't push it away. Just feel it. Then ask yourself, can I loosen my grip on this? Even just a little. You're not trying to fix or escape. You're simply watching what happens when you stop holding so tight. This is the real work of the path. Not big breakthroughs, but small, honest moments of awareness. So what happens when you let go completely? You stop being trapped by your thoughts, your emotions, or your story of who you think you are. You don't disappear. You don't lose yourself. You just stop needing to hold everything so tightly. Life is still here, but it feels lighter. You see more clearly. You respond more freely. And more than anything, there is peace. Not the kind that hides from life, but the kind that lets you fully live it, with nothing left to fear, nothing left to protect. That's not an escape from reality. That is reality, finally seen for what it truly is.